What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Trench Talk, episode 2 of the 2024 season. We got some fun stuff today because obviously it's still the off season, so not too much to talk about. We don't have games to cover, but there has been some interesting stuff with the start of training camp. Lots of holdouts. I feel like some surprises. A lot of people that we kind of expected, though.
Yeah. Jordan Love definitely comes as the biggest surprise to me. I think, obviously he has a great season last year, but I don't really know if that warrants him wanting to get a big deal done because I know last year in the offseason they signed him to an extension. So I guess I was just really surprised that he's being aggressive like this. Do I think he deserves it? I mean, probably, but I think there's also a lot of people out there that want to see one more year of Jordan Love behind center.
Yeah, that's me. I want to see one more year because
Yeah.
I've watched Packers games for a bit now, and what I saw is that before last year he sucked. So it's like, if you sign him, are you getting last year's Jordan Love? Like, yes, that was him with a majority of the reps, or are you getting 2 years ago, 3 years ago Jordan Love who couldn't throw the ball to save his life?
And especially if you remember the first half of this season, first half of last season, people were pretty much out on him. I remember specifically watching that Raiders game. I think it was on Monday Night Football. He throws a game-losing interception, and I think that was his second, might have even been his third interception of the night. And I was like, you know what? I think the Packers might have missed on this kid. He can't even beat a Josh McDaniels-led team. But, I mean, he obviously turns it around, cooks my Cowboys at home, and that's awesome. That power to him. But I think especially with the quarterback market right now, if you're going to pay someone upwards of, it seems like the bar right now, if you're a really good quarterback, is 45 to 50 million dollars. I think you're going to want to be for sure that this is your guy.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get upwards of that. I think he'll get kind of like a Baker contract, to be honest. Just like a prove it deal, like, you can be our starting guy, but we're not investing a ton into you because, we have to save money for other people down the road. But if he comes out and proves that he's like the next Patrick Mahomes, maybe they'll give him a lot, but I don't think he's there yet.
He's been someone that's been pretty friendly with the holdout. I know he's at practice right now. I just don't think he's doing anything at training camp, which is kind of weird, but it's fine. I mean, me personally, if I was going to hold out, I'd just do the whole, I just wouldn't show up, just go whole ass on it or whatever. But anyway, and I think if they sign him this year, they'll give him somewhere in the middle of like Baker money. But if he holds that, or if he just goes on and plays this season and performs well, then I think next year is when he can, then we can start talking like $40 million.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I feel like the Packers are still in a situation to get back to the playoffs just because, they always seem to be in contention. So, it really does usually come down to the quarterback. So if he can prove that he's another generational guy, which, sucks for everybody that doesn't like the Packers because they just keep thriving. But if he can prove that, he can get his money for sure.
Yeah, and it's a good young team. I think the signing that not a lot of people are talking about is Josh Jacobs going to the Packers. They're pretty much swap him out for Aaron Jones, who went to the Vikings. So I'm interested to see what that's going to be like. I feel like a lot of people forget that Josh Jacobs led the league in rushing 2 years ago and pretty much carried that Raiders team outside of Devontae Adams and the connection he had with Derek Carr at the time. But I see this not lasting a lot longer. I don't really understand it a whole bunch, but if it's someone just trying to go get their money after half of a really good season, I guess I can somewhat understand that.
Yeah. I actually like that you bring up the Josh Jacobs trade because, I like him better than Aaron Jones as like a workhorse back per se. Although he's not going to get you like a 4 touchdown game, but he did lead the league 2 years ago. He hasn't really fallen off since then. And Aaron Jones, I mean, you could say both have their injury concerns, but I mean, you kind of got everything you could get out of Aaron Jones. And Josh Jacobs has the potential to be more talented.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of great young wide receivers there too. Their tight ends really performed well last year as well. Matt LaFleur is still, I mean, there were some doubts on him going into, I feel like these last couple of years, but I think he's still a top 10 head coach for sure. So, but on the Jordan Love conversation, I mean, I feel like if they don't get a deal done within the next couple of weeks, then they'll just play it on. I don't think this is too serious of a holdout compared to some other ones that you got on here.
I don't think he's going anywhere. But before we get to more holdout talk, because I know some people might think that's boring, I personally don't. I think it's interesting. Training camp. I mean, the first thing I have on our list is Vita Vea. I saw a clip of him shotgunning a Gatorade, or he's like yelling at his teammate, like, "Yo, give me the Gatorade, give me the Gatorade. I'm gonna shotgun it." Like he's back in college, and then they're like, "Oh, you're a big beer drinker." He's like, "Nah, I only drink white wine."
Yeah, I feel like someone might have to check if he's got a wife or something, and he's just switched on to the white wine trick. Which, hey, power to. I mean, if you're gonna, it's probably the healthier option. Rather than just drinking a bunch of beer, but he looked pretty rehearsed.
I'm a guy myself.
He looked pretty rehearsed when he was shotgunning that Gatorade, which I don't think I've ever seen before.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Logan is not going to shotgun one for you today.
Yeah, I thought about it, but, it's been a busy week here, so currently not at home base right now, so I don't even know if I would know where to find a canned Gatorade in a metal can, so.
Yeah, plus don't want to get it all over the hotel room.
Oh, I don't care.
You get out.
That, but it's fine. They'd probably just be like, I don't know what this maniac was doing, shotgunning a Gatorade, but I guess we'll just clean it up.
Okay. They're like, you got perfectly good beer in the mini fridge, but okay.
Yeah.
But moving on, we can talk about your Bucks.
My Bucks. That's what we're calling them now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Baker's your guy.
What's not to love? I just saw a clip yesterday. I think probably the most fun thing to do right now is just go on Twitter and look up training camp. And, people get either really excited or down about their quarterbacks. And I saw a clip yesterday where Baker rolls out and then rushes for, I think, what was a 2-point conversion after a touchdown. And it looked good and everything. But I think what people don't understand is that these defenses right now are not allowed to touch the quarterback. So I think we should really calm down about some of the hype. Like, there was one really bad clip, actually, to move on to talk about Daniel Jones for a second. There's a really bad clip where he overthrows a screen pass. And I'm like, wow, I'm not a big fan of Daniel Jones. I have been watching the Hard Knocks on HBO, and this is a guy recovering from, I believe, it was either an ACL or a hamstring injury that left him out for the remainder of last year. So, and there was a guy coming right at him in his face. So let's just calm down on some of the assumptions on quarterbacks right now.
Yeah, remember that he hasn't played a snap in a year.
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, people overreact to training camp stuff all the time. It's like a lot of these, these will happen in practice. That's why they're doing it, so that it doesn't happen in game.
Yeah. You either hear really good stuff about the offense or really good stuff about the defense. The other day, Dak Prescott threw 12 touchdowns in practice. I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. Or that could be saying our defense is trash. So I don't
they're probably not playing full speed.
Exactly. So it's awesome just to see guys back in action and, stuff happening. But me personally, as a media person, I'd be more interested to talk to the players rather than just because, you know what? We also saw fights. We've also been seeing fights at training camp.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think
it was
that
Kadarius Toney, right?
Yeah, Kadarius. he got hit by by George Karlaftis, right?
I think so.
I think he got like smacked in the head by George Karlaftis, and then Travis Kelce came up to him and was like, "What's going on?" And just don't read into too much stuff like that, because these are guys that haven't, their job is playing football, and they probably haven't been able to do that in a while, and probably tensions rising, whatever. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, they're just kind of letting loose for the first time. I mean,
Hmm.
off season, they're just sitting on their couches pretty much.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, they're obviously in their training and getting better, but I mean,
Well, if
they're
you're
not.
Travis Kelce, you're on tour, so
Yeah, is that Taylor Swift's boyfriend? I always forget
maybe
his name. Some nobody.
he's. I think with his new mustache, he called himself El Travador. So
Hey, I f with it. um, no, but I was talking about the Bucks. You see the creamsicle jerseys? Look at
oh
this.
yeah,
See if I can.
except the last time they wore those was when they got destroyed by the Lions last year, so that was not fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean the Lions are good. Who cares? They're playing the
Yes.
Falcons this year,
Mm,
but I mean
yeah, that
Baker
could
back
go
in the
one.
creamsicle.
I think I think the Falcons season is honestly solely based on if Kirk Cousins is good or not, because they
If
really
he's
didn't.
available or not, because I mean he's going to be good. He's always good. I feel like he's one of the most underrated quarterbacks of the last like 10 years, but he just last year the injury, and I don't know if he will be back at 100%.
I
I mean,
mean, he's 35, recovering from an ACL injury, or an Achilles injury. So,
yeah,
I mean, I'm not a
but
doctor, but that can't be the easiest thing to do.
he's not the most mobile quarterback though. So it's like as a pocket passer, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is coming back from an Achilles too.
Hmm.
So it's like we'll see if these old guys can, find a little bit of
Hmm.
their pass production, because if they can, their teams are going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a little bit more of a problem for a guy like Daniel Jones, who that's like honestly 60% of his game is running the ball, which he
Hmm.
actually does do pretty well. But I mean, you still got to think that maybe Kirk Cousins, if he's not good, I mean, where else did they really upgrade this offseason?
The
They had a good
Falcons,
offense with him coming in, but
yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is they didn't have a quarterback. So you're going from
yeah,
like one of the worst quarterbacks in the league, Desmond Ritter, to a top 8 guy probably.
that whoa, top 8, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
Anyway,
when he was healthy, he was like top 5 to top 3 in yards most years.
yeah, I mean, and he had a really good season last year. They just kind of record wise, they didn't start out really well. Plus, also the Falcons did.
Yeah.
I guess they upgraded a head coach too, because
Hmm.
they got rid of Arthur Smith and his mustache.
Yeah, because he, for some reason, they needed to do that switch because you have all these offensive pieces and you're just not using them. It's like, why do we have Kyle Pitts out there blocking if he's supposed to be a generational receiving tight end?
I thought it is Raheem Morris. Okay. I thought it was him, but I didn't want to speak too soon. But yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I think what really was the decision to get Arthur Smith out of there is when they used their top draft pick the last season on Bijan Robinson, and you know, Arthur Smith's game. I mean, he became a head coach because they had the best when he was with the Titans as OC, they had like the best rushing offense in the NFL with Derrick Henry. Now you have a guy that's more versatile than Derrick Henry, a younger, more versatile Derrick Henry, and you guys are like what they finish like they finished 7-10 again for the third straight year.
More versatile than Derrick Henry, really.
Well, yeah, I mean Bijan can catch the ball better and make. I mean he's more explosive in the
Well,
receiving game than Derrick Henry.
in the receiving game, but I don't think he can do what Henry can do on the ground.
No, but Henry can't do what he can do through the receiving game.
I guess.
Bijan might be he would be a guy for me where I can see him being like the next someone like Saquon Barkley or CMC who can get close to like 100 catches in a season as a running back and like maybe close to 2,000 scrimmage yards.
Yeah. I just feel like Derrick Henry does so much more in the running game just by he's not just like a bowling ball. He also is like insanely fast and pretty shifty, which is he can get 2,000 yards just on the ground.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But Bijan, I mean, some of the moves he's made are kind of insane too. He's younger right now. So I'm not saying at his best, I'm not saying he's better than Derrick Henry was at his peak, but we all know that Derrick Henry's on the downtrend. And Bijan,
that's true. Yeah. Plus, I mean, what was it? Was it a juke early in the season by Bijan? Something he was just putting people on skates.
Like, yeah, and I think his first touchdown was just juking someone out in the receiving. Yeah, it was pretty insane. I'm looking forward to seeing him in year 2. But more training camp stuff. I know one thing. We can move on to retirements if you want. Well, last thing on the Bucks creamsicle, I am excited to see that, but I just have bad memories because they got their butts kicked by the Lions when they wore those last year.
Well, it's a fresh slate. Maybe they can start a new tradition of winning.
Oh, they will. They got Sterling Shepard now. So,
moving on. You want to talk about the Bengals? Because I know that's been kind of the talk of the week.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, Joe Burrow's like the hottest guy in the NFL according to everyone. So anything he does, that's going to go viral. And he
maybe not anymore.
Why?
And he went full Eminem.
Yeah, but people are still
nice flow going before.
They're still rocking with it though.
I guess. Actually, that's the haircut I want to do. Is just shaved head, dye it blonde.
Did you hear why he did it?
Why? Eminem released an album.
He was just bored.
That's been my reason too.
And I think there's someone else. I think it's like a tight end or something that said if he did it, then he was going to do it too. So now that other player has to do it. I forget who it was specifically, but Burrow said it in a presser. Some are calling him Slim Shiesty. Kind of like that. I think the less shot. I mean, and then Jamar Chase came out with a buzzed head, which was a little bit less surprising. But
yeah, I saw both of them with the buzz, and I was like, Bengals coming out with the buzz cuts this year, but I guess it was just like a 2-off thing.
I almost thought it was edited because you remember like a couple months ago when people put like the Anakin Skywalker haircut on Joe Burrow and everyone thought it was real.
Yeah.
I was like, do you guys not understand that this is his picture from Media Day last season? Like,
yeah.
And we saw him like 2 months ago. You think he just added like 6 inches of hair in like 2 months? I don't think people know how that works.
He could have like Justin Herbert genetics,
Mm-hmm. Or gone over to where's everyone getting their hairline fixed at? Where people they're
like Dubai or something.
Yeah, they're flying across the country so they can get laser hair removal or something.
I think it's like Argentina. It's somewhere in like that.
It is Argentina. Good thing I don't have to worry about that. Obviously.
Haircut.
When I walked into the barber yesterday, I should have said, "Give me the Slim Shiesty."
Yeah, and they'd say, "Get out."
Yeah, you need to leave.
Okay. Yeah. We'll move on to retirements.
We'll retire that joke.
Yeah.
Shaq
Barrett.
I was going to say, we were talking about the Bucks earlier. I don't think he had just signed a deal, right?
Yeah, with the Dolphins, I believe.
Yeah. I don't think people are really realizing how big of a deal this is because This is a guy that led the league in sacks. What was it, like 2 or 3 years? 3
Yeah,
years
I think it
ago,
was
maybe.
3 years ago. He didn't win. I think that was the year that Stephon Gilmore won
Yeah,
Defensive Player of the Year.
yeah.
Yeah,
And he had, I want to say, should have my research for this, but I want to say he had like 19 and a half sacks or something. Or is that too much? Might have been
I think it
17.
is. No, I
Okay.
think it was. It was either. Yeah, I think it was 19 and a half. I know it was close to 20 or just over 20.
Yeah. But
Let me pull
he,
this
I
up.
mean, it's just one of those like shocking ones, more shocking than a guy like Michael Gallup, because as a Cowboys fan, I know Michael Gallup has been on the downtrend. And you can argue that Shaq Barrett's been on the downtrend as well, but like Michael Gallup didn't lead the league in like receiving yards or receiving touchdowns like 2 or 3 years ago. Like, and Shaq Barrett probably should have won that Defensive Player of the Year. I get it. That was the year that Gilmore had 6 picks, and he probably had like a ton of pass breakups, but like
Yeah,
17, 19 and a half sacks on a bad Bucks team is wild.
yeah. Although that was the year before they got Brady, um,
Yeah. That was the
which
30
they
and
were.
30 year for Winston.
Yeah, I mean they were still good. It's just that like Winston gave away 30 interceptions, which is
Yeah.
insane. That's, um, I mean, you have those interceptions, they're probably winning 3 to 4 more games. To be honest.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason Shaq Barrett was able to, get a bunch of sacks. It was because he had
Yeah,
probably 15 extra opportunities on defense.
yeah, but I mean, his production went down because once Tom Brady got into town, the Bucks just signed every single superstar possible so they could feed him a Super Bowl win, which we're talking about that a different day. But I mean, they probably had the most talented defense in the league,
Mm-hmm.
especially that front seven. So it's like you're splitting reps with like 4 to 6 other guys that can, you know, be starters, be number one guys on other teams. So it's like you could see why his production dipped.
No, yeah, and
So he was still good.
I think also a lot of that defense is, or some of those pieces have kind of left now, right? Like Levante David, I want to say
Mm-hmm.
it says he's still on the butt. Someone else left too.
Um,
But I mean,
yeah, it might be
that,
tough to find.
well, I mean, JPP was there for a season or maybe
Mm-hmm.
two, and now he's
Played out of his
done.
mind.
Um, I want to say they have a corner that's also gone.
It was
Um,
a Sean Murphy Bunting still
yeah.
there.
No.
I don't know.
No, he's probably. I think he's on I think he's on the Saints.
I know that.
Oh, he's on the Cardinals. That's crazy. Anyway,
Devin White. Is Devin White
yeah,
the one
that's
that went to the Eagles?
yep,
Obviously, they
that's
had
who.
Ndamukong Suh, but
Mhm.
he's like 85 years
50.
old, right?
I knew it was either Devin White or Levante David. One of those two really good linebackers.
Yeah. And I mean, William Golston was pretty solid too, just as a role player.
Now that's just making me think back about when that defense went up against the Bucks when they won the Super Bowl that year. And if you remember that one time we talked about the really bad corner on the Packers that sold that game,
Kevin King.
Kevin King, who's probably retired, but not by decision. So
Forced out of the league.
because no one wants. If anyone wants to go back and watch just maybe one of the worst playoff performances by a cornerback, it's Kevin King in that divisional or
Yeah.
NFC championship game. Yep, NFC championship game.
It was
One of
pretty
the
sad.
yep.
But I mean, I think going back to the retirement, I mean, he he is like pretty young, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
31, but he retired because he said he wanted to spend more time with his family,
Mm-hmm.
which is obviously a very good thing to do. Like
Mm-hmm.
nobody's, you shouldn't hate on somebody that's retiring for that decision. But
Yeah.
I actually have seen like quite a bit of comments about that.
Really?
They're like, yeah, I mean, that's just Twitter being Twitter, but like,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, family, why don't you retire for a good reason or something? You'll do more for them by playing in the league. Or that's like, okay. Is that what that did to Tom Brady's family?
I think
Just
it's
learning
probably
off
like,
his past teammate.
well, it's probably like one of the most selfless retirements we've seen in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I think anyone in that situation, you have to consider if he plays more years, he risks injury and, I mean, CTE. But if he doesn't already have it,
He
get
is
19.5 sacks. I mean,
in the trenches.
yeah, you're in the trenches here on Trench Talk.
I mean, he
Um,
did. I looked at his stats, and that was an insane outlier year.
mhm.
Most years he averaged like 5 to 8 sacks. So it's like, he was still good in the run game. But
Yeah, I mean, he was a big he was a big reason that that defense was what it was, and I think maybe I'm sure the people that you were seeing on Twitter is probably Dolphins fans who are just salty that he signed
yeah,
with them and now he's just gone.
yeah,
But
it is kind of weird to sign with the team and then retire.
mhm.
But he probably had a whole off season to. He did say he was like deciding it for a while. So
Mhm. There was another couple news that happened last week that we had to add to this. I mean, just kind of a random trade. Eddie Jackson getting traded to the Ravens.
yeah, which
I
I
think
mean,
this
Eddie
is
Jackson is good.
yeah. I mean, this is just another thing that, or another reason that I think Ravens are kind of going all in this year. I think last year it's kind of weird. Like last year, I thought they were going all in. They had good draft picks. They signed Lamar to that huge deal. I thought they were going all into. At this point, it's really just beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, and you'll probably get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
So getting him and Derrick Henry on offense this offseason, I mean, I think a lot of people might not think this is a huge move, but I mean, I think Eddie Jackson's still one of the better safeties in this league.
yeah. I mean, he was. I feel like he was the top 5 guy like a couple years ago. He had
Mhm.
really hasn't lost a lot. I mean, it seems like the Ravens are just kind of getting good deals on players that are kind of like on the decline, but like have
Mhm.
not hit the bottom yet.
Mhm.
Kind of what they did with Henry,
Yeah.
But it might be one where you have to see where he fits in, just because I mean the Ravens have a really solid defense already, so he should just be the push they need, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's if I think if anything, they just need to put more attention on offense. Eddie Jackson is a great pickup, but like how much better can your defense be? They held I mean, when they were at home, they held the Chiefs to 17 points and still lost. So,
Yeah, I mean the defense was the reason they were winning games. It
oh
wasn't
yeah.
Lamar Jackson. Sorry, sorry, Lamar, but
You think he lets his defense hold the MVP trophy? He's like, man, thanks guys. Appreciate it.
I mean it is just a team award at this point. Most valuable team, MVT.
I think they call
Um,
that the team that wins the Super Bowl.
it's always the Chiefs. We did see that. I think Michael Gallup retired too.
Oh yeah. Yep. For sure. That's I was gonna post on Twitter about it, but then I was thinking about it. I start looking at his stats. I'm like, you know what? It sucks, but I think I just remember him in some of the better years. These last couple
Yeah,
years, kind of been falling off. He has been dealing with some injury, but can't lie. I was always a fan. I mean, his touchdown numbers were never really insane if you look at it. I think he played close to like I think it was like 8 years in the league and he only had like 40 touchdowns. So that's not really insane. But again, like I said, he's been battling injuries these last couple years. It was always great to see him alongside, whether it was Amari Cooper or CeeDee Lamb. So, and I'll miss doing the gallop whenever he scores a touchdown, which, what, like I said, was very rare times, but it'll suck to not have him on the team.
Yeah, once every like 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Especially with CeeDee Lamb holding out. So that
That's true.
sucks.
And we can move right into that. I mean, we knew that they had to make a decision at some point if they're going to
Mm-hmm.
re-sign him. So he's just kind of the first of the guys that's going to force their hand.
Yeah. And unfortunately, with how stubborn Jerry Jones is, this probably won't get done for a while. I did see on Twitter today that, this holdout could last for a few weeks. So don't be surprised if we are a couple weeks away from the regular season and CeeDee Lamb still doesn't have a deal done. It
Yeah.
sucks just because you want him to be there. I feel like him and Dak and like other members of the offense are close. So this feels strictly just like a business decision for him. But I don't know I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I think, wasn't he one of the guys that we were kind of expecting them to sign? I mean, he's so talented, you just don't want to see him go.
Yeah, but that's the problem is like at the end of this season, like this year, Dak, Micah, and CD are all on expiring contracts. There's other guys,
Yeah.
obviously, but those are the big three. So
Yeah.
Jerry Jones really has to make a decision on which one of like I feel like there's no way you can sign all three. Most likely it's going to be two. Hopefully it's not one.
It's
So
just CD and the other two go at the end of the year.
yeah, it's CD and I think it would just be I don't really see a world where Dak Prescott doesn't re-sign with the Cowboys just because I think Jerry Jones and the rest of the Jones ownership love him. And you can say whatever you want about the Cowboys, but for the past probably 15, maybe close to 20 years, they don't like being in quarterback purgatory. So they don't like drafting.
Yeah.
But they don't like drafting quarterbacks. They don't like having to worry about that stuff. That's why they stuck with Romo for so long.
Yeah. So I guess we'll kind of just have to wait and see. But I mean, you've seen everything you can see out of Dak. It's like CD still seems to be getting better every year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and you definitely don't want to lose Micah Parsons.
Yeah. I think most likely though, if we were to lose one of them, I feel like Micah won't leave. I feel like we'll get that done. And he seems pretty chill with it. He's not holding out, obviously. He hasn't really talked to the media a whole bunch about his contracts, which it's really weird that this is even happening for CD because he just had a camp, like a youth camp, and said that he wasn't going to talk to the media about his contract. So I don't know what's changed in the last 2 weeks, but apparently nothing because he still isn't re-signed.
I mean, that's probably the issue.
So I feel like this is probably the holdout that's going to last a while. It's probably going to be the one that everyone keeps talking about because it's the Cowboys, best team in the league. So we'll just I hope it gets done soon, and we're probably going to have to end up paying him close to 20.
I could see that. I mean, it would almost be better to get this contract done right away so that you can see what contracts you need to restructure later on. So you only really have to worry about signing two guys as opposed to like all three coming up at the same time.
That's true. But
so
personally, I love CD, but I don't think of those three, he's the most deserving of a new contract.
Yeah, he's not the most deserving, but he's not the least deserving.
No, I think Micah deserves a contract the most.
Mhm.
They should get that done. They should have had that done 3 months ago. And then you can pay CD.
Yeah.
I know, a lot of people might think, well, Dak just had an MVP season. We've been waiting for that.
I mean, he's had
That's his
seasons
best.
close to that in the
Yeah,
past, though.
for sure. But he's also what, 30, 31 almost? I think he's in his 30s now. So I think I'm I think really this CD deal will take a while. They should have gotten Micah done earlier. Dak, he's been pretty chill about it. It's whatever, but Jerry Jones, do not mess this up. Get
Yeah.
the CD deal done.
And we can move on to another receiver that's holding out.
Mhm.
We talked about him last week. Brandon Ayuk is at practice. He was spotted. But Trent Williams is now holding out and not at practice.
So did they kind of just do like they were probably texting between each other, like, "Hey, I'm gonna be at practice. You gonna be there?" No, I'm not. Nah, it's all right.
Like, do you want to go and get the notes for me and bring them back?
Yeah, maybe tomorrow Trent will be there. Brandon won't. Kyle Shanahan's just gonna have his hands full.
Yeah. I mean, of the two, you'd rather keep Trent Williams.
Yeah,
I feel like
but
there's no debate there.
I feel like the Trent Williams holdout is kind of out of nowhere. Like I felt like a
Yeah.
Brandon Ayuk holdout could come just because I knew he was on an expiring contract. Trent Williams has been there for a couple of years now, and he's getting up there in age. He was kind of getting up there in age when he first went there. So this holdout by him kind of surprises me.
Yeah. Excuse me. No, but I mean, I feel like the last 2 years he's cemented himself as like the best offensive
Mhm.
lineman in the league. So I feel like he's not getting paid. Well, I feel like his contract's pretty solid, but I mean, maybe he just wants to be like the generational. I mean, I feel like we've seen offensive lineman contracts this offseason that have broken records. So maybe he wants to again be at the top. I mean, he deserves it, but at the same time, it's like, what bad timing. I mean,
Yeah.
you just you're going into the year hoping to like make it back and actually win the Super Bowl this time, but now you have two crucial pieces that are just like not working with you.
So Trent Williams is supposed to be signed through 2026. His deal
Mm-hmm.
was signed in 2021, but according to Spotrac, this is his potential out year. Um, but if he were to play this year, he would only be getting paid $31 million.
Which is insane for a lineman.
Yeah. So I don't really
Because
understand.
I think he set the record in like 2021 for the most, but I mean, in this offseason, we've seen some other guys break that record.
Yeah, that was a 6-year, $138 million contract. Over the next 3 years, he would be getting paid 31, 34, and 37. So this is all kind of starting to come back to my memory because I do remember when they did first sign him, that he was one of the contracts where like you sign him and the first couple years are, you backload the contract. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of been a popular thing these last couple years. But this is when people have to realize that of all the superstars that the 49ers have, someone's going to get the short end of the stick. So, and I think that, it's still becoming pretty clear that that's Brandon Ayuk, despite him being at practice.
Yeah, which I guess I wanted to look up because I assume it is just because of. Sorry, I looked up Trent Williams. The first post was Brandon Ayuk wants out, Trent Williams holding out. Debo's still a running back. We're here for the 49ers downfall.
That's crazy headline.
Yeah, but it's like you're making so much money. It's like, how much do you want to be paid? It's like,
I guess I'll have to read up on it more, but I'm just confused on to why he's holding out. It can't be a
something
money
for like
issue.
a readjustment. So I don't know if it's like maybe guaranteed money and being like, when he's getting up there in age, maybe he doesn't know if he's going to hit the end of that deal.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe shift more of the money up to now.
Yeah, he is 36 this year. I think will be turning 37 in the middle of this season. So
yeah, so it's like at some point he's, if he wants out, he can't get all the money for the next 3 years. So it's like, maybe he shifts that money to this year and next year. In his final year, he's making like nothing. Then
yeah, this is episode 2 of us trying to become experts on NFL contracts and how those work.
Halfway through the season, we're not going to care.
No, we're not going to care because most likely what's going to happen with this, Brandon Ayuk will stay with the 49ers. I think right now, like the Eddie Jackson trade that we saw, that might be the last trade that we see for a long time. Like we're in training camp right now. I feel like people are like, they're getting their installs. They're, going through new coaches, new schemes, whatnot. Like if you're on like anyone holding out, they're going to stay with their team. Like I'm nervous about the CD holdout, but like I know he's not going to go to another team this year.
No, a lot of holdouts this early are just, they'll end up getting the deals done. It's just how long will it take?
Yeah, it's just annoying because like you want your team to have everyone together. Like everyone's like, all right, we're in practice together. We're going through this. We're going to win the Super Bowl this year. Like last year we kind of saw it was a little shaky for, I believe it was Chris Jones, who didn't play week 1. And then they lost to the Lions. We saw how big of a deal Chris Jones was, and they re-signed him. I think that just needs to be a note where it's like, hey, I don't want to go into week 1 without CeeDee Lamb. Or you don't want to go into week 1 without your star left tackle, 49ers.
No, you could have a Aaron Rodgers situation with Purdy, which you don't want that.
Mm-hmm. No, you don't. Well, because then who's their backup now over in San Francisco? It doesn't matter.
Sam Darnold?
No, he's at the Vikings now. He's probably going to be the week 1 starter for Minnesota.
No.
What? Yes. Have you looked at Vikings media at all?
Why would they let that happen?
Most Minnesota resident?
I'm not fully convinced on the Vikings being a team for me yet, but
well, JJ McCarthy will not be the week 1 starter.
I mean, we're so early. There's no way to tell.
It's becoming pretty likely. But yeah, 49ers don't want that. This is obviously something to talk about with the holdouts, but because you do have to think, it does make you think back on players like in 2018 when Le'Veon Bell held out and didn't play the whole year. Yeah.
Or Deshaun Watson.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, just ruined his career. I mean, made him a lot of money somehow, but he's never been the same player since the holdout.
I agree. There's definitely been some. You rarely see. Well, I guess other than Deshaun Watson, you rarely see it from a quarterback. Mm-hmm. This reminds me of when like Ezekiel Elliott, before his big deal that like screwed the Cowboys for a while, he held out for a while in training camp. So this stuff mostly gets done unless you're dealing with the Le'Veon Bell or Deshaun Watson, which I don't think Trent Williams, Brandon Ayuk, Jordan Love, or CeeDee Lamb are any of those types of people. So
no. I mean, I feel like we see holdouts every year. They end up getting figured out. So we'll probably be talking about it like 2 weeks from now. Like, oh, They got a new deal for CD, highest paid
Mhm.
receiver in the league.
Oh God. Well, I don't want that.
They had to
I don't
cut
want
Dak Prescott or something.
Well, time to
Uh,
start Cooper Rush.
oof, rush season incoming. I got a lot on this list, but
Yep.
probably won't get to it. We can obviously the NFL 100 is releasing currently, but we could just talk about that all when it's fully released.
Yeah, I
'Cause
agree. I mean, the big one's Aaron Rodgers falling. He was at like 50 and then fell to like 92, which for
well,
him
the
to still
insane thing
finish,
is he's still on the list, even though he played
yeah,
20 seconds.
yeah. So, I mean, I get it, but also like
Or
that's it. I don't know. This NFL top 100 thing is like a pure social media thing. So,
yeah. Plus, I think it was Minka Fitzpatrick fell from like 15 to like 70 or something,
yeah,
which I guess makes sense because he was like on a milk carton, like missing. Where's Minka Fitzpatrick?
it's true.
Um, I kind of wanted to talk about running. This is our running backs week,
Yeah.
although we've been talking about receivers. Um, so maybe we should have made it a receiver week, but it's whatever. Um, the first thing I saw is Kadarius Toney. Obviously, we talked about him earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs wanted to give him like a Debo Samuel role this year, which I think is interesting, especially with how terrible his hands were last year.
Mm-hmm. I think this like definitely comes as a surprise, but if you think about like an Andy Reid offense and how like every year I feel like they change stuff up, this definitely seems like something where it's more beneficial to have him in like a running back slash wide receiver role rather than just strictly wide receiver. Um, that does mean you are probably going to be given more um, reps to guys like Sky Moore, which still don't really know how he is.
I'm
Um,
high on Sky Moore.
but
Or any
also this
Rasheed Rice.
it's interesting that they're taking, wide receiver reps away from Kadarius Toney when they still have to figure out what's going on with Rasheed Rice. So
That's true. I mean,
I don't really know where we're at with that situation. If we're just gonna sweep that under the rug or what's going on there. I think he's at training camp. So
okay, that's interesting.
what?
Um, oh, I wanted to see if, yeah, Kadarius Toney did take 11 rushing attempts last season. So I remember Kadarius Toney like starting to do more running, um, but I guess maybe they just want to like split his reps. Probably.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. It's the
I think
Chiefs.
I
They'll
think
be fine.
it's definitely gonna be. I mean, it's another fun thing to put in the Andy Reid offense. I actually saw a clip of Kadarius Toney on social media, and he was with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, which I'm surprised he's still on the Chiefs roster. Those are two guys that I'm actually very surprised are still on the roster.
Yeah, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is like he's never lived up to his like week one game or whatever.
Yeah,
Whenever he's
of his rookie year,
yeah
which is kind of crazy. I mean, that was like I think that was really his only good year was his rookie year, but he's still a two-time Super Bowl champion now. So,
yeah
but he probably
sitting on
only
the bench.
he probably only rushed the ball like 30 or 40 times last year.
Yeah, I mean Pacheco is like just 10 times better.
Yeah, and they still have McKinnon too. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that running back, they're adding him to the running back room where all the Pacheco and McKinnon are really good receiving backs too. So I think moving him in there is interesting to say the least. I don't really know how he's going to work, but
Yeah, I mean it
you
just
definitely,
adds more confusion to what the Chiefs are running anyways. I mean they always have some weird things going on.
Yeah, I feel like you definitely don't want him at like kick or punt return anymore because I feel like he was bad there too, except
Just
for the
yeah,
Super Bowl punt return.
yeah. I mean, he's probably gonna fumble quite a few balls though.
Mm-hmm.
He just seems to like find a way to mess up.
Mm-hmm. Get himself off the field, pretty much.
Well, I was gonna say it's like Xavier Worthy being in the receiving room now,
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah.
along with the other guys they had. I feel like there isn't a lot of room for Kadarius Toney to be like one of the starting guys, I guess.
No, yeah, for sure. So they have to really when you wrote that in the doc, I was like, they just must really hate this contract that he has because they are finding ways to get him in the game. Don't get me wrong, Kadarius Toney, we've seen him make plays, but we've also seen him drop a lot of balls and fumble and yeah.
Yeah, cause interceptions,
Uh,
throw games.
yeah, line up offsides. That was the worst one. That was
Yeah,
definitely the worst one.
can't line up offsides if you're a running back. So,
He'll find a way.
oh god. I saw another thing. I don't know. I think it was they might have interviewed J.K. Dobbins. He's on the Chargers now
Yep.
because Eckler went to the Commanders,
Mm-hmm.
which who cares? But J.K. Dobbins says he's in for a special season.
Does that mean
And
he's going to play more than 10 games?
yeah, well, because his last good season, I think it was like 2020, his rookie season, which was really good. I remember
Yeah.
him being really good.
No, yeah, he was really good, but he's just gotten injured every year
Yeah,
since.
missed a whole year in 21,
Mm-hmm.
played half the games in 22, and missed the whole year last year.
Yep.
So it's like, I mean, same thing happened to Chris McCaffrey. Maybe we have a similar season incoming.
With a new coach and a borderline top 8 quarterback.
He's in top eights today.
Yeah, we'll use top 8. Well,
Yeah.
Justin Herbert can definitely kick Kirk Cousins out of the top 8 conversation. That's for sure.
I mean, Justin Herbert's probably in the top 6 conversation.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
He's not 5.
Yep. We're high on Justin Herbert on this podcast.
Yeah, the talent's there. I mean, J.K. Dobbins obviously was in a really good system with the Ravens, and I feel like we saw what Eckler did with the Chargers, so he could just take over that role. So
Yeah.
if he can stay healthy.
Mm-hmm. And, pick the right holes to go through and not be – well, Eckler was also injury prone or probably still is and just older. I feel like a lot of these guys, they have awesome stories, but it's like, all right, let's be real. There's a reason that Austin Eckler had to go to Western Colorado Tech State. So it's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome to see him ball out in the NFL for a couple of years, but then you're like, oh, this is why you had to go to a community college and play football. I get it.
Oh boy, the Austin Eckler hate is crazy. I think it was like 2-3 years ago. We were like, should we draft CMC at number 1 in fantasy now, or is it Austin Eckler's time?
That's what happens. Well, a couple of years ago, it was a no-brainer. You draft Jonathan Taylor number 1 overall now.
And then he's sucked, right?
Yeah. So who's the number one overall pick in fantasy this year? It's still Christian McCaffrey, right?
It's still Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, it's been Christian McCaffrey the last 5-6 years.
And then 2 is probably Justin Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Although, gosh, I made arguments about Justin Jefferson over McCaffrey last year.
That's true. But he is going to be dealing with Sam Darnold for a couple weeks, so.
No, he's not.
Yes, who's starting? Who's going to start?
J.J. McCarthy.
No.
Oh, give me Jaron Hall.
I will bet you that. I'll bet you I'll bet you $20 that JJ McCarthy is not the week 1 starter next year. Or this year, sorry. Next year would be way too far out this season.
No, I'll bet you $20 that Sam Darnold isn't.
Well, I'm not taking that. Well, how are we doing? I bet it's anyone but JJ McCarthy.
Well, I would say anybody but Sam Darnold. You see how we're in different boats here.
Yeah, we are. But
we're confused.
Let's just leave it like this. Week 1 of the NFL season, you're paying me $20. We'll leave it like that.
Okay, we will see. Got it on recording. You want to finish off with the top 5 running backs?
Let's do it. I started off first last week, so I'll just do it again.
Okay.
I'm going to go quick number 1 at CMC. I feel like that's just the clear favorite, just like how last week it was Patrick Mahomes. Now I'll roll through my next 4. This one's we were looking through this before the live stream started, and it's kind of crazy that, I'm already going to have Bijan up there at 2 because I'm a big, you need to be versatile, both running and receiving. From what we've seen from Bijan, I don't think there's a reason to think that he can't be the number 2 running back in the league. Elusive. He got like 900 rushing yards on a terrible offense. I mean, just straight up bad.
Mm-hmm.
Going on to 3, Jahmyr Gibbs. Again, I mean, just a touchdown merchant towards the end of the year. It took him a little bit to get going. He's splitting reps with David Montgomery, which it's just crazy to think that backfield. I mean, I feel like that's a big reason that they were almost in the Super Bowl is they have 2 of the best running backs in the league. David Montgomery, obviously Iowa State guy, love that. And then we're going to go to Kyron Williams. We were talking before this. He played in 12 games and had 12 touchdowns. He needed, the Rams team needed him to go off to get to the playoffs because before that, I mean, yeah, they had Puka Nacua, they have Cooper Kupp and all that. Love those guys. But they had I want to say they had a losing record almost halfway through the season. And then Kyron Williams, gets the starting nod and just starts to go off. And then number 5, Raheem Mostert, again, touchdown merchant. I put him low on the list just because he does work. I mean, he's in that system. So obviously, he's going to get a lot of touchdowns. Devon Achane gets a lot of touchdowns in that system. But Raheem Mostert, an older running back, probably one of the better receiving backs in the league, and just part of what makes that offense explosive.
Yeah.
That's my soapbox.
I mean, that's one of the things I feel like I differ is I don't even have Raheem Mostert in my top 10 almost, which crucify me if you will. But I mean, we saw what Devon Achane did on that same team. So it's like, how much of it is Mostert? How much of it? I mean, he is one of the fastest running backs in the league.
Yeah.
But also how much of it is the system and that year, we're going to have to see one more year out of him. Plus, I don't think he's so injury prone that it's I don't know if next year he's going to be as good. And I'm kind of basing it off going into next year.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you can't really discredit what he did. I mean,
no. Did
he lead the league in touchdowns?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure he had 18, so
yeah,
he's got to be up there.
Yeah.
My list less than me. You've got a more fleshed out list.
Well, I got a very similar list, to be honest. So, obviously, CMC is 1. I mean, if you're trying to debate that CMC is not 1, then you don't know ball. Sorry. Jahmyr Gibbs, I have him at 2. I know you had him at 3, but I think last year was his rookie year, which is kind of crazy to think. So now that they know what they have out of him, because the first, was it 5 or 6 weeks, they just didn't use him.
Yeah.
He didn't take a single snap because they were like, we have David Montgomery, who cares?
Right.
Well, then when he started getting going, you're like, oh, this is one of the best running backs in the league. So I think I mean, I don't see the Lions getting worse. So it's like another year with that offense, another year getting better. I think he's going to start taking reps from David Montgomery, to be honest. And I think he'll be a top 3 running back in the league, like scrimmage yard wise next year.
Mm-hmm. I could see that for sure.
And then I had Kyron Williams at 3 because the production in his 12 games was insane. I mean, you can't really like argue that 12 touchdowns in 12 games plus. I mean, obviously David Montgomery, similar. He had like, I want to say it was like 10 weeks of touchdowns just every single game.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, yeah, Kyron Williams is like the back there in Los Angeles. Plus, I think they said that they're going to give him more of a role, which is crazy. They're like, we're going to make sure that he's healthy and that the limitations are placed, but he's going to see an increased workload next year. As if he didn't already have an insane workload.
Right. It's like he could potentially lead the league in like rushing touchdowns or whatever, just like solely rushing touchdowns, or compete with CMC for rushing yards.
Yeah, which is insane. But it is kind of cool. It's kind of refreshing to see these young running backs do well because, I mean, I think I'm still back in like the days where you would have your workhorse back, like Derrick Henry, almost like for the entire like 8 years or whatever.
Yeah, he gets like 300, 400 carries a season for 5-7 years.
Yeah, but I think we're shifting into like I think we shifted into like a receiving running back era where you have to be able to do both to be really good.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of makes sense with the passing offense that's kind of developed through these last like 10 years, really.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Derrick Henry's the last like
true running back.
Yeah.
Or Nick Chubb.
So oh, yeah. I actually don't have Nick Chubb on my list, which, I mean, I feel like you really shouldn't just because he's still on the PUP list.
Oh, wow.
Like we don't even know if he's going to be able to play week 1 just because of how bad he messed up his knee.
Well, at this rate, if he's still on the list, he probably shouldn't.
Yeah. He should just retire. I mean,
no.
I know. He's one of my favorite players. I mean, gosh.
I just miss the way he runs.
Yeah.
Tucks in.
So humble, too.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, he's what made me a Browns fan. Rest in peace.
And then, he didn't die.
He died on the field that day.
Oh, my God. Damar Hamlin.
Too soon.
Not too soon.
Was I at 4? I don't know if I said Bijan yet, but yeah.
No, Bijan. You haven't said Bijan yet at 4.
Yeah. My top 4 guys are like just the receiving running backs. And then number 5, I have Henry, just because with the Ravens, was he second in rushing last year on his like super down year?
Yeah, with the Titans, he was second in the league in rushing. And
I think he led in attempts though, but still, I think he led in rushing attempts.
Yeah, for sure.
But he still had like a 1,200 yard season with quite a few touchdowns. So it's like, you add him into the Ravens, who are a run heavy offense. I feel like he's not going to get back to like his 2000 season, but he'll probably get like 1,500 yards.
Yeah.
Unless he's like seriously injured, which he's been injury prone over the last few years, but it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, they were definitely trying to like push him out a little bit. You could tell with like Tajay Spears, who kind of sucks for him because he performed pretty well, and then he's now splitting reps with Tony Pollard, which kind of makes sense because those are both guys that you want splitting reps. We learned that last year with Tony Pollard. with the Cowboys is he cannot be a running back just by like he can't be a number one. I'm just going to be honest with you. Love Tony Pollard, but last year ruined him for me.
He's not a 3-down back.
No, he's not.
Yeah. So I mean, that's my top 5. I had some honorable mentions. There's a lot of guys. I mean, the running backs are super hard to rank because there's like the 4 and 5 spot. There's so many guys you can put in there. I mean, you could. It's like, what do you value more? I mean, I had like Breece Hall, Rashad White, and James Cook, all had very, very good years. I think over 1,500 yards from scrimmage by all of them. I want to say
Makes sense.
it's just they couldn't find the end zone. So it's like, running backs are supposed to be scoring touchdowns, right? So it's like, or they should be scoring touchdowns.
Yeah, and those are all guys where James Conner starts out the year with, Josh Dobbs and Clayton Tune, so not great. And then also Travis Etienne, the second half of the Jaguars season, they were terrible. And Breece Hall dealt with Trevor Siemian, Zach Wilson. So those are all guys where I could see them having better years this year because Breece Hall will have Aaron Rodgers. James Conner will have Kyler Murray the whole season.
Expected to have Aaron Rodgers.
He'll be back week 1. And
also, I didn't say my honorable mentions yet, but I've been spoiling the list.
Okay.
James Conner and Travis Etienne are on there. They're like my 6 and 7 guys.
There you go.
And Saquon's also in my top 10, just because, I mean, James Conner did really good last year. I mean, Travis Etienne, they're all receiving backs. They have like a lot of scrimmage yards. They find the end zone. I mean, it's I feel like the best way to describe it is they're like really good fantasy players. They'll get you the receptions, they'll get you the touchdowns, they'll get you the yards. So it's like, I mean, you kind of need that from your running backs now.
Yeah.
And Saquon he kind of had like a resurgence last year for some of it. It wasn't, I mean, we're still looking for like rookie year Saquon, which is crazy to say, but I think he's trending in the right direction. He was healthy at least.
Yeah. 2 years ago was definitely his resurgence. Last year was keeping it a little bit consistent, a little bit down, but still consistent. And one thing about rookie Saquon I'll never forget is he had 90 catches as a running back as a rookie, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But he's on a better team now. So that, as a Cowboys fan, that scares me.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, the Eagles, like, you would think that they're going to make it back to the playoffs at least. But I mean, that's like, they always seem to find a way to use their weapons.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We saw that with like A.J. Brown. So it's like, hopefully Saquon will eat too.
You will, for sure.
Saquad. As you might.
Is that all from you?
I think so. I think I talked out. I'm all talked out about running backs.
Me too. I think time for us to go cover some Iowa high school state baseball. So.
Oh yeah, should be a fun day.
Oh yeah. Thanks for tuning in to episode 2. We'll see you guys next week.